It's been a while since we've talked about the OnePlus phones. In fact, the last time we made a video on OnePlus, I think it was when I was reviewing the OnePlus 7 Pro. Wasn't really whole interested in that 7T crap. That was unnecessary, and it's kind of what annoys me about OnePlus is when they do these like 6-month refreshes, because they're always like a little bit better, but not enough to be interesting. But the OnePlus 8 and the OnePlus 8 Pro are supposed to be coming out next week, and by coming out, we mean OnePlus, has a live stream about them. In regards to what we know about them, it's practically everything. So I thought we could go over the details so we could see how OnePlus is going to respond to the Samsung Galaxy S20 lineup. Let's begin. So yeah, obviously, I'm an Apple sheep. I prefer iPhones, but when it comes to my favorite Android phone of the year, it's been a toss-up for a while. It's been either the OnePlus flagship or Samsung's flagship, and yeah, I'm excluding the Ultra, okay? I'm referring to the S20 and S20 Plus because those two phones are awesome, and I don't think anyone should get the S20 Ultra for any reason at all, but the OnePlus 8 seems to be keeping up with the tradition of rock-solid specs at a reasonable price point, even though this is higher than what OnePlus has charged in the past. The specifications are offering things that they didn't offer in the past either. So I get it, I understand why a lot of people might be upset by that, because OnePlus used to make super cheap, affordable phones, and now they're getting closer and closer to flagships. But hey, this is what people are asking for, right? This is what people wanted when we got those cheap OnePlus phones. It's like, imagine what you could do if you charged even more for these things. In fact, I think I recommended them charge more in the future so that they could make even more premium phones. But thankfully, it seems like they're taking my advice, because if you remember my OnePlus 7 Pro video, the biggest things I wanted on that phone was wireless charging. It felt really, really stupid that it didn't have that in 2019, and also water resistance, which I know it technically had, but I felt like the IP rating was not really as expensive as they were making it out to be, and I'm sure it had some water resistance to a certain extent, but getting that certification gives everybody that extra peace of mind. So yeah, on the 8 Pro at least, we'll be getting 30-watt wireless charging, which is insane. If you've been following OnePlus on Twitter, they kind of tweet out and reveal things before the events even take place anyway, but they're working on this proprietary wireless charging technology. So sadly, yes, you're going to have to buy this OnePlus certified wireless charger in order to get it to work, and it is only going to work with the OnePlus 8 Pro. So it's very unique and exclusive to this device, but it's still an amazing feature, and the fact that you can get to a 50% charge within 30 minutes inductively now is like a whole new level of, OnePlus always being about that fast charging thing, but they just didn't want to do wireless charging until they could do it just as fast as wired. And that's pretty much where they are now, because wired charging is 30 watts, and technically it'll still be a little bit faster than wireless, but still pretty dang close. And hopefully this type of ultra-fast wireless charging technology can be implemented across other smartphones in the future. But that's pretty dang impressive. Now, I'm pretty sure the regular OnePlus 8 is not going to be getting an IP rating for water resistance, but I'm sure it will be somewhat durable. And what's kind of interesting is the differences between the OnePlus 8 and the 8 Pro. So again, a lot of this is speculation, leaks, and rumors. They're not confirmed yet, but we have a pretty good idea. So the cheapest OnePlus 8 is going to start at $700, and that cheapest version will have 128 gigs of storage, which is nice, as well as 8 gigabytes of RAM, which for Android is decent. And for $100 extra, you'll be able to double the storage to 256 gigs and increase the RAM to 12 gigs. So if you care about having those pinned apps in your multitasking menu, I guess you'll have that benefit with the OnePlus 8, or if you need that extra storage. And this is going to have technically a triple camera setup, but it's honestly more like two, because you just have ultra wide and standard, and then you have really, really low megapixel sensors that are basically for like depth sensing / macro lenses, as well as color balancing lenses. They're kind of just extra. They're not really things you get to activate right away, but from what I'm hearing, the cameras between the OnePlus 8 and the 8 Pro are fairly different, despite their megapixels maybe being a little bit the same. But yeah, the regular OnePlus 8 is going to be rocking a 90 hertz OLED display, 6.5 inches, so still rock solid display. But the OnePlus 8 Pro is where things get interesting, where it's rumored to start at around $900 with that same 128 gigs of storage as well as 8 gigs of RAM. But this has a 6.7 inch display, 120 hertz AMOLED, which is awesome. The part I'm not too excited about is that the 8 Pro gets the curved edges, which honestly, I was never a big fan of the edge displays on phones, and it really wasn't something I appreciated about the OnePlus 7 Pro. And I was actually a big fan of how the Galaxy S20 series decided to make things go a little bit more flat and just go back to the standard, curved curved corners is okay, but when it comes to the edge of the displays, just go right to the edge. You don't need to warp off the side a little bit. It's just kind of cool for pictures and marketing and whatnot, but when it comes to day-to-day use, it kind of just gets annoying. Some of you may disagree with me though, that's fine, but OnePlus 8 Pro is rumored to have two 48 megapixel sensors, one being ultra wide, one being standard, and then an 8 megapixel telephoto, which seems kind of low to be honest, but it's an option nonetheless, and it'll be a 3x optical zoom, which again is something the regular OnePlus 8 won't be having. But both phones will be getting the Snapdragon 865 with 5G support, so if you're noticing these higher prices than last year, you can thank Qualcomm for that. But the 865 is still a really impressive Qualcomm chip, so I'm sure things are going to be very speedy and quick. But the OnePlus 8 Pro is rocking a 4500 milliamp hour battery, and the OnePlus 8 is rocking 4300, so they're actually pretty close. That's the thing, like, there's not really much size variety with the OnePlus 8 series. I know OnePlus is working on smaller phones along the side, but the fact that there's only a 0.2 inch difference between both of these phones seems oddly close. And also it's a 6.7 inch display on the 8 Pro, and that's going to be running at 120 hertz, 4500 milliamp hours. I mean, that might be kind of low. Knowing how other high refresh rate displays have worked in the past, I'm a little bit concerned to see how that's going to age, but obviously when they get their hands on the phone, we'll figure out how that battery life does. But I'm guessing it'll be okay. It's probably not going to be groundbreaking battery life, but enough to get you through the day and still leave the display at 120, which is important. I love that. But the also bizarre thing about the OnePlus 8 series is that we're going back to just camera holes. So not a notch and also not a pop-up camera, which in some ways feels like a step back, because I remember OnePlus being very proud of both the 7 Pro and now the 7T Pro for being able to not have any notch or camera hole at all. And if you needed to activate the front-facing camera, you just had that little pop-up. I always thought it was kind of tacky. It felt like an early compromise, and after using the OnePlus 7 Pro for like a couple weeks and going back to my iPhone, I didn't feel like the notch was just so intrusive and terrible. It's like, that's honestly where we look at our phone the least. Like, of all parts of the display, it's okay to have something there. And to ensure that these OnePlus phones can have IP ratings, I think that's why they got rid of the pop-up camera and instead are going with the camera holes, which that's fine personally. I don't think anyone's going to be that upset about it. I'm a little annoyed by the placement. I actually really like the Galaxy S20 camera holes being centered because it's just a bit more symmetrical, and you have icons and things up there that come off from the side, so it makes more sense to put it in the center to me, but yeah, off to the left is fine, I guess. Both phones are rocking 16 megapixel selfie cameras, which is excellent as well, but of course from hardware leaks we can only tell so much. It seems like these days when it comes to camera performance and ranking them against other smartphones, it all comes down to the computational side of things. It really has very little to do with the cameras or sensors themselves. It really comes down to how the company is able to handle the software for the camera, and that's where statistically I recall OnePlus not being amazing. The 7 Pro camera was good, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that any really $700 to $900 smartphone these days have bad cameras, but they're just not like industry leading that compete with something like the iPhone, but they'll be good enough for anything you want to take a picture or a video of and you're not willing to use an actual camera, you're just using your phone, for sure, it'll get the job done, no problem. So yeah, knowing what we know about these phones so far, they seem really solid. I'm excited to see the event and how they're going to handle the launch of this, because given the crisis we're in right now, it's probably not going to be like other OnePlus events. But feel free to let me know over on Twitter, join my Discord if you would like me to react to the OnePlus event on my Twitch page, because I've reacted to them in the past, but they're not necessarily known for being super interesting. Either way, I won't do it unless you guys really want me to. So just feel free to let me know. And of course, let me know what you guys think of the OnePlus 8 or 8 Pro. Is this another era of smartphones peaking, or are you really excited to see these finally hit the market? This is your Option here. I'll see you guys in the next one.